Is there no longer a reason to even hope? Have you ever thought about what happened to women war captives in biblical times? A Facebook friend recently posted that he is furious, in caps, about the Torah portion of Ki Tetzeh. His complaint was that the woman described in Deuteronomy 21:11 has traditionally been known as the beautiful woman. He argued that she should instead be known as the captive woman because she is a hostage taken against her will as part of the spoils of war. He wrote, "The possibility of a captive woman being forced to marry her jailer and the murderer of her family is so horrific it makes me sick to my stomach." Viewed through a 21st century lens, it is difficult to disagree with him. But the Torah was not written in the 21st century. Before condemning the law, it might be worthwhile to ask what the problem is that the Torah is attempting to solve. Most discussions focus on the soldier. Very few focus on the woman. What happens to her? In the ancient world, warfare was brutal. When one nation conquered another, the victorious soldiers often killed the men, plundered the village, and raped the women. Those women who survived might be enslaved, abandoned, or left to fend for themselves in a devastated land. The Torah enters this ugly reality and proposes something remarkable. It tells the soldier not to rape the woman. It tells him not to use her as a slave. Instead, if he desires her, he must take her as a wife. To the modern reader, this may not sound compassionate. The thought of a captive woman marrying one of the men responsible for the destruction of her people feels disturbing. She may have lost her father, husband, brothers, village, property, and future. How can anyone expect her to marry one of the people responsible for these acts against her? Yet, the Torah is asking a different question. What will become of her if no one takes responsibility for her? The Torah's answer is that the soldier who desires her must assume responsibility for her. He cannot treat her as an object of pleasure. He must elevate her status from captive to wife. Whether we find this solution satisfying today in a society with social infrastructure is another question. But the Torah's intent appears clear. It is attempting to transform a relationship that would ordinarily be based on violence into one based on obligation and permanence. The same principle may explain another difficult law in the Torah. A rapist is required to marry the woman he violated, unless she refuses the marriage. To modern ears, this sounds outrageous. Yet, the Torah is once again confronting a practical problem. In the ancient world, a woman who had lost her virginity outside of marriage often had little prospect of finding a husband. Her social and economic future could be destroyed. The Torah therefore asks a difficult question: who will take responsibility for her? Let us test this idea with a more modern but theoretical example. Imagine it's 1945. A small German village has been a Nazi stronghold. Allied troops enter, suffer casualties, and eventually destroy the resistance. When the battle ends, the local men are all dead. The surviving women and children are gathered together. What happens next? Should they be placed in a prisoner of war camp, or should they be left to their own powers of survival in a ruined country? Is either option attractive? Today, governments create rehabilitation programs, refugee camps, reconstruction plans, and social services. In post-war Germany, the Marshall Plan eventually helped rebuild the nation. But in biblical times, there was no Marshall Plan. There were no refugee agencies, there were no reconstruction programs, there were no social workers, there was no government aid. There was only the question, what will become of the survivors? The Torah proposes an answer. If a soldier finds a woman desirable, he may not rape her. He may not enslave her. Instead, he must take responsibility for her future by making her his wife. I call it the Torah plan. It is not a plan of punishment. It is not a plan of abandonment. It is a plan of rehabilitation. Whether we find that solution appealing is another matter. But the Torah is at least attempting to answer a question that many critics never ask. What should happen to the woman next? The Torah is attempting to prevent vulnerable women from being discarded. That is also the underlying concern in the case of the captive woman. Modern readers tend to focus on the woman's immediate past. The Torah focuses on her immediate and long-term future. Without this law, she might face slavery, abandonment, poverty, exploitation, or death. The Torah seeks a different outcome. It seeks to give her a place within a family and a chance at a future. This is why I think the traditional name, the beautiful woman, should not be dismissed so quickly. The law is not celebrating her beauty. Rather, it's recognizing a basic fact of human nature. The soldier's attraction to her becomes the mechanism through which the Torah attempts to save her from a far worse fate. The question is not whether this law reflects modern values. It doesn't. The question is whether it represented a moral improvement within the world in which it was written. I believe it did. Nations may initiate wars or be forced into them. Those are political decisions. The Torah is concerned with the day after the war. It's attempting to replace rape with marriage, exploitation with responsibility, and hatred with the possibility of peace. That doesn't mean we must embrace the law today. It certainly does not sound like the happiest place in the world for the woman to live, but at least it gives her security and the possibility of stability. She can even build a family. Perhaps you're an advocate of a detention camp and a Marshall Plan as a better method for the woman who has lost everything. But at a minimum, we should try to understand what the Torah plan was trying to accomplish before condemning it. Thanks for listening.